Hi, my name is Shadow and today I'm going to talk about Figueiredos rules for the Montante. Dom Diego de Figueiredo, sometimes written with an I, sometimes written with an Y, was a 17th century soldier, diplomat and fencing master. He gathered experience in the Portuguese War of Restoration and commanded at least in 3 of 5 major battles. He even served as a man-at-arms for the crown and instructed the young prince Teodosio in fencing. Being a respected fencer, Figueiredo became the author of 2 manuscripts. One was the Hoplosophy and the True Skill of Arms, which was more for the rapier, and the other one was the Memorial of the Practice of the Montante, which focuses on the greatsword. He wrote down 32 rules for the Iberian greatsword, which was called the Montante. And if you want to know more about the Montante, I recommend you my video about the Montante from my Greatswords Around the World series. Figueiredo divided his 32 rules into 16 simple rules and 16 composed rules. Since the Montante is a weapon mostly for asymmetrical fights, the rules were written in a scenario where the wielder is outnumbered by his enemies and could be attacked from every side imaginable. Each rule is a series of combinations of certain strikes and footwork for the Montante. The first rules start with basic strikes like rising cuts, cuts from above and horizontal cuts. After that, Figueiredo combines the previously learned cuts and thrusts to a chain and adds a new element into it. With each rule you learn how to do certain strikes from certain angles. You learn how to move with a greatsword and mostly how to utilize the momentum in each swing, which can go circular or 8-shaped. Figueiredo also adds context to the rules, in which situations they become handy, like in a narrow street, or surrounded by opponents. If you know Japanese martial arts, you could call these rules katas. They are not universal answer to the situations Figueiredo describes in his book, but rather a repertoire you can resort to when the need arises. Also, if the Montante got stopped mid-technique, you still could change to another rule due to your practice fluidly, or resort to your longsword techniques, since they were mandatory for a greatsword like the Montante. When you start with greatsword fencing, Figueiredo's Montante is the first you hear about. Although his texts were early translated and better available, they weren't the best described ones. There was always a big space for speculations how the techniques had to be performed. And also, the early translations tended to have minor errors or used words that implied something else than the author intended. The Spanish original is said to be less ambiguous, but since I can't speak Spanish, I can't confirm it. Please keep in mind that I'm not a fencing teacher and don't have the best form. I only explain the crucial elements of each rule because when I first started, I had no one to tell me how they were performed. My videos are for all those people who don't have a HEMA club around, but motivation and a love for big swords. In conclusion, Figueiredo's reglas are a solid base for everyone who wants to learn to fence with a Montante. He has many reglas for many situations and prepares you to become a very experienced fighter who can defend himself at 360 degrees. Then again, his texts are difficult to understand for beginners, so I recommend to read first the manuscripts of Louis Barbaran and Dom Diego Godinho instead. But if you still like to learn more about Figueiredo's Montante, I recommend you my playlists where I show them. So, if you liked my video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time in another video. So, have a good day.